generate some interest in this topic. So my master power man, Chuck Price, is with me. And what I'm going to do is to try to frame out what this idea is, why we're here, and thanks so much for coming. And then what are the legs on this thing? What can we do with it? What might be our role in it? What is your role in it? That sort of thing. So, Chuck? Okay. Who are we? I'm Rich. I'm Rich Wallace. And 4 or 5 of us have been talking about trying to get some traction on an idea that we had several years ago. And so the key people who were involved in kind of generating this idea would be, in addition to myself, Chuck Price. I think everybody met Chuck or knows Chuck. Put your hand up there, Chuck. Miss Teresa Wendrick. Catherine Toll in the back. Todd Miller. And our videographer, Bruce Boyd, is the 5th one, or 6th one actually, and Bruce is on some Business Matters today. He'll be with us. He's part of the core group. There's nothing magic about the core group. The core group can expand or contract. We're just people who have a heart for leadership and spiritual development, and how that can come together, and how we all individually can benefit on our journey, and how our families can benefit, how our businesses can benefit, and how our community can benefit as well. So that's kind of who we are. Who are you? Well, I know most of you, but if you have not already, what you see in front of you is a name tag peel-off thing. So if you don't have your name on, could you please do that? We have some pins at the table. And just peel one off, and I'm sure you'll all introduce yourself anyhow. But that's item number 1 under who are you. And then secondly, we need to know your contact information. So although I know, again, most of you, this is the purpose of the file card. We're going to go hard copy here. So if each of you could not leave until you have filled out a file card, starting with your name. It doesn't need to be last first or first last. Doesn't really matter. Just make it legible. And then if you've got the best number to reach you, if it's a cell or something, that's great. So name, cell phone. And on that third line, give us, and this is your most important thing, I guess, a really legible email address. Name, cell phone, email address, so we can get in touch with you, okay? And we're going to, on a regular basis, Chuck, next little item there. Shelby County Community Impact. You may have noticed on the email that we sent out to you, it said something about Shelby County Community Impact. I wanted to make sure you understood what that was and what the background is. About 3 or 4 years ago, several of us had, primarily Chuck, had some acquaintances and friends and just really some national leaders come in and talk about principles of leadership and spiritual development. And we had these speakers in about once a quarter or so, and we would go maybe 6 months at some point ago. I hadn't went in, but we had 4 or 5 of those over a period of a couple of years. And since then, people have said, gee, that was a neat thing that you did. Let's do that again. Well, Chuck has a vast network of friends, but there's a limit to the number of people who want to come to Sidney, Ohio, at no charge, you know, and talk to our group. And so we kind of ran his list of contacts who had that much time. We tried to cover their flight costs when we could, that sort of thing. But I think we had a good idea there, but it really wasn't a model that was sustainable in terms of cost. And for everyone, we had reservations, and my secretary would look at me and she would say, we're doing this again, and how many phone calls am I going to get? So we decided to try to come up with a little more of a sustainable model. And to be frank with you, I really thought that we had the talent in this community to pursue these ideas. And I really think that, and I know that. And so we decided to do that. What is Shelby County Community Impact? In the midst of bringing these speakers in, we incorporated an entity, and we've kept it alive. In fact, we have $147.67 in the checking account. Keep getting contacted by the bank. You're going to use this account? So we have a corporation, and so we decided to use that name, Shelby County Community Impact, because that's really what we're about. We're about impact. And Chuck's going to talk to you in some detail about significance. But significance means really impact in our personal lives and families and business in our community. So Shelby County Community Impact is a real live entity, and that's that. Okay, when we're going to attempt to do this twice a month. we kicked around once a month, didn't think was often enough, because if you miss one, then you haven't been with us for 2 months. Once a week, it's probably a little heavy, so we settled on 2 times a month, first and third Thursday. So is that part of it sustainable? We certainly hope so. Don't know. We're going to have to get your feedback as we go along. And I know nobody can make all of them, so we're going to tell you about how we're going to advise you concerning what's going on. But the when would be first and third Thursday. You all were great. Almost all of you were here at 11:45. I thought everybody would come at 12:15, but you were all super about that. So, 11:45, chat it up a little bit, get your meal, and then we're not going to try to have a program be any more than about a half an hour. Why is that? This needs to be some time for you to share, for you to communicate, for you to learn about some of the other groups in the community. And at the end of the program, whatever it is, you'll need some time to unpack what's been said. You'll need some time to chat about it, because our speaker, in almost every case, is going to challenge you with a question or two about this program and how you think it might apply to your situation. So we need some time for that. So we're going to have you out here by 1 o'clock, no later than that. Okay? And then when, the where, the why. I think I've explained that already. I have my best intentions for a work week, and don't you all? You hope the work week is going to go a certain way, but by Monday at noon, what's happening here? The world has knocked you sideways. Aren't there times when you think, oh my God, I had this lined up, and I got an irate customer on the phone, and I got an employee who's being difficult today, and I went home with the best intentions to remember my spouse's birthday, but I was off by it. The world has a way of getting to you. And so, doesn't it, in the end, become about our struggle to maybe be significant? And I know to me it does. And so many people I've talked to have said the same thing. I mean, I go to church on Sunday, but how does that migrate or translate into the rest of my world? I mean, how can I? A lot of people do a good job of taking those faith values and impacting their own life, but then when it comes to relationships, key relationships, marital or employee, or in the workplace or in the community, how does all that come together? And so this just happens to be a topic that, especially Chuck and I have dialogued on for several years. And so I know I've talked on various aspects of it, Chuck has as well. And so we think we all want to be significant in our own lives. We all want to be significant in our relationships and our work. And so how can we do that? And how together can we learn to do that? So that's kind of the why of it. And we just want to get together. This is not Theology 101. It's not Catholicism. It's not Methodism. It's not spirituality. You know what it is? It's values that come from common sources, our spiritual values. That's how do we apply those in our personal lives, and how do we become more significant as people? That's really kind of what it's about. Okay. And so we've kind of broken that out, and we do want to take this idea of significance, and Chuck today is going to begin to unpack that, because until we have that baseline of what significance means, we really can't take that idea and then say, okay, let's kind of explore that in our personal lives. Or how does that work in our situation at work? I mean, how can I use that on a management team that I have at work if those things are related as well? So we're going to try to unpack those 4. And what we're going to do is take a look, first of all, at this idea of significance in our personal lives. And so we're going to look at several things. The first 2 are going to be identifying and building our core character values. Because, let me ask you this. How many, either at work at some point, have ever done a SWOT analysis? Strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats? But have you ever thought about doing a SWOT analysis of your personal life involving your core values? I mean, most people don't, do you? And so I think what we want to start to do is to talk about what core character values might you want to identify with. Everybody's going to have a different set of core character values, perhaps. But how do you begin to have that discussion about what are those core character values around which you're going to build your life? Okay, so that's going to be the first one. And then the second one is one that I'm going to take because you're put the words humility and attorney in the same sentence. It's off to a sermon action. So humility is really, that's just been a key to my spiritual walk, trying to understand how it comes together. And so that's my topic. I'm going to work on humility. And the more I learn about it, the more I learn that I missed out for so many years and not trying to get my hands around humility. And so in terms of significance as a person, I just think humility is really important. It's been that way for me. So our third one is going to be determining your giftedness. So we're going to talk about core values, and we're going to talk about humility. And then this idea of giftedness. I can speak okay, I do that. That's my profession. But if I hand this microphone off to other people, I would get this, like this Allison book. No way. So all of you aren't gifted in public speaking. Many of you are gifted in service. Some of us are not. And so we're going to try to help. We're going to have a program. We're going to try to help you understand what your giftedness might be and maybe what it's not. Okay? And then we're going to do a fourth one in the series of being significant as a person. And it's going to be establishing guardrails in our personal life. What is a guardrail? Anybody ever hit a guardrail? Okay. Okay, and a guardrail kept you from falling over the cliff, right? Okay. I have an aunt who's passed away now, but she had a lot of contact with guardrails many times as her son. She drove to Florida when she was 95. So anyhow, guardrails are helpful. But have you ever thought about this idea of we need guardrails in our personal lives? How can we help each other establish guardrails so that when we deal in personal relationships, we know where those boundaries are? Okay? So, how do we come up with those 4 topics? We just kind of kicked it around. There could be 24 more topics to talk about how to be significant in your personal life. We're going to start with those 4. Okay? And then we're going to move on to being significant in your personal relationships. We're going to unpack 3 or 4 different topics about significance in your personal relationships at home, key important relationships. And we're going to kind of move that significance idea onto work. Because for the 99% of my work life, I had my faith on Sunday when I went to church, before I got started my faith journey. When I went to church, and then I really never thought about, is there a way to take those values and apply those in the workplace? Many great ideas and programs out there for that. So we're going to kind of look at that aspect. And then we're going to graduate, if you will, up to being significant as a member of this community. Okay? So then another couple things we're going to be talking about as we go along this journey together, outreach possibilities. Depending upon who you talk to, the issue of leadership when it comes to Shelby County and Sidney always comes up. A lot of people step up that are in leadership capacities, and there are decisions in the community that need to be made, I think, and directions in the community needs to take, on which a lot of us have input. So there will be possibilities as we go along, as we kind of form our team together, to look at whether or not this group or any of us want to be involved in some outreach leadership possibilities in the community. And it's going to be up to you individually, and we'll have some chances to do that. And then the other thing I wanted to mention was there are going to be some mentoring opportunities as well. So if you have any interest, or if you know someone that really could use a personal coach or a personal mentor, there are going to be possibilities to develop later on to have people in this group or elsewhere in the community come alongside. Maybe it's a young business leader who would like to have some direction in some of these areas. And so it's just, there's going to be nothing really formal on that setup, but we're, a lot of people in this room are just willing to do that and willing to help. So that's kind of that's a broad brush of what we're trying to do, significance. We're going to apply those 4 areas. There's nothing magic about these topics or this agenda. We're looking for your ideas. And if you have a topic that's close to your heart, let us know. Send us an email, and we'd be more than happy, because we may go from, we're going to try to go personal, and then family, and then work, and then community. But we may jump back and forth a little bit if someone has, you know what, I've got some great stuff on this topic. I'd be happy to address the group on it. Maybe that relates back to significance in your personal lives. That's great. So we're not trying to build an architecture here. Nothing's really established. We just want to take this thing where the kind of work is. Okay. So Can I field any questions that we have right now before I give it over to Chuck? Let's take a minute. Everybody came in and got food because that was the process we wanted to go through, but I want to take a minute and bring us into this program as well. Lord, I just thank you and bless you for what you've done in the lives of all these believers. Lord, whatever legs this series has, we just give you the credit ahead of time. We just ask you to bless Chuck and bless everybody in this room. Lord, lead us down the path together as we work and learn together. So we give you all the credit in your name and the name of your son. Mr. Chuck Price, most of you know him. Whatever I've done in the community would not even be a fly speck on the resume of this guy. He's been a major force in people's lives ever since he went to, I think it was Otterbein. We don't recognize that school. Anyhow, he's been the main man on my spiritual group. So,
Thank you, Rich.
yep.
Well, it is good to be together. Really need this. I think Rich just gave me a contraption. Is there a code break on this, Rich?
No. You good?
What they teach you, Cat?
We have a couple of other RFI people. We'll let them in too.
Anyway, is it working at all?
No. Yeah, it's working.
Is it?
I can turn it up a little bit.
Okay. You sure it's working?
Yeah, there it is.
Well, it's good to be here. I was, last couple of weeks I've been traveling quite a bit. I was in Mexico, well, down south of Mexico City in Puebla, a city that's about 7,000 feet, and had a great time down there. I called a hall meeting, and met some sweet Mexican folks that are making a difference in their communities, particularly the businessmen and women, and how they have a heart for God, but a heart to see transformation in their communities. Then I went to, came home today and went to Europe, and I was in London and Amsterdam last week, and what a phenomenal time to be both in London and Amsterdam and be with these folks who were struggling about, we're putting together a European Economic Summit this next September, and these were the pre-meetings, and they had folks from business and economics and from the universities and some MP folks from Parliament. They're putting together quite a coalition, and they're really struggling with the real issues that are facing Europe in terms of the looming, the economic crisis isn't over there yet. And in fact, as one guy got up and said, he said, you know, we've incurred unsustainable debt, and the system is going to collapse. And both in the meetings in London and in Amsterdam, it wasn't an issue of if the system's going to collapse, it's just a matter of when. And what is the role of men and women of faith in making a difference in their generation? And it was a phenomenal discussion, and it was great. In London, it was at Westminster Abbey at the Annex there, so it was right in that historic area. And then in Amsterdam, phenomenal meetings. But the theme that came out in both the meetings of London and Amsterdam, I heard it over and over again, different ones that were speaking, is that people need hope. And that the fact that those who have a personal relationship with God and are men and women of faith, in the midst of a crisis, they should be the ones that are in lighthouses. They should be the ones that are impacting their communities and their societies and taking a stand. And it was a phenomenal discussion of these incredible leaders, and it was a privilege to be there. So I just got back a few days ago, and we actually, we were going to start a week earlier because I was over there and we put it today. So it's great to be together. And as Rich said, this is a time for us, hopefully, as we go into the next several sessions together, we'll interact a lot together about this. But I have a vision for Sidney. And it's a vision of Sidney that we don't allow this community to fall off the map and decay like so many do because of lack of leadership. But it's only as we as leaders lock arms together and work together to make a difference in our community that we can begin to grapple and to take on the issues. And so we hope down the road that we can begin to grapple with that. But you got to start with the individual. And of course, I've spent a lot of years working and coaching and developing people in a lot of different places over the last 45 years. And as I say, I was in Amsterdam the other day, and this guy, we were talking, and he's an independent, wealthy business guy at 40 years old. And, you know, and he could be one of my kids. You know, my oldest is 41. And I'm talking to this guy, and he looks at me, and he's saying, "You could be one of my kids." And he keeps looking at me, and he says, "How old are you?" And it's just like, I'm just way too young to be this old. You know, and so, but it's an individual thing, and we've got to band together. And one of the things that we wanted to talk about is the whole issue of significance. And I want to ask you a question. Think for a moment of someone that you know that you would describe as having a life of significance. Because one of the things that we talked about in coming together in our time, we don't need to talk about success because all of us have been through enough leadership and success kinds of courses. We know what success kind of looks like and feels like. And some of that is because we failed enough to recognize the real deal, right? So I've come to a point that I don't hardly trust anyone in their character if they haven't failed at something. Because that's some of our greatest learning. But what's it mean to be a person of significance, to make a lasting impact? Because that's really, I think, the yearning of our heart. I think God created us to be men and women of significance, to make a lasting impact. And as you think of people that you know that that you would personally say that they're a person that has a life that's significant in impacting others. What are some of the qualities that make that person a man or woman of significance? Anything come to mind?
Compassion.
Compassion.
Genuineness.
Generous?
Genuine.
Genuine. By the way, this whole issue of genuine and authenticity, particularly anyone under 40, you know what the big issue is? Is authenticity. They want people who are the real deal. And authenticity is incredible. Genuineness. What else? Honesty. Integrity. Encouraging. What is it? Truthful.
Rich's favorite quality, humility.
Yeah. Yeah. And, you know, all the stuff that you've mentioned, those are character qualities that are forged in a person's life through circumstances. It's like you don't just get ready-made humility, right? In fact, Dr. Bill Wright, who was the president of Campus Crusade, said often I heard him say, the best way to be humble is to be humiliated. You know, to go through that process where God allows circumstances into our life that shows us that there's only one God and we're not it. Because when we're being successful, it's real easy to start to fall in love with our own press and think that we're pretty hot stuff. But you know what? That won't make a person significant. I've had position. I've had title. I've had a lot of people that I've been responsible for. At one time, I had 6,000 people and 68 ministers that I was responsible for. And huge budgets. But that doesn't make the significance. It's those character qualities when you're serving other people. And as you empower other people to be successful, that a significance begins to occur. Significance is the quality of having notable worth or influence. Everyone chases after something. Isn't that right? You know, so let's just out of the chute admit it that we tend to be driven people. Most of us who are leaders, we have a drivenness about us. I don't think that's necessarily bad. And sometimes we want to just kind of sugarcoat those things. Why not have a sanctified drivenness that brings honor and glory to God? See, the bottom line is that whatever we are chasing in life, we hope it will lead us to significance. We want our lives to matter. We want our lives to have meaning. However, as one writer puts it, oftentimes the temptation of success and accomplishment can overshadow our calling for living a life of significance. Isn't that true? We get caught up in the wrong kinds of things. As often I've heard that people tell their personal story. And I've heard a lot of guys say, you know, it was like I was climbing a ladder of success, only to find that it was leaning against the wrong wall. And I remember I was thinking this morning, I don't know why I was thinking about Rear Admiral Bruce Hooley, a guy I met when he was a commander of a naval fast attack submarine. And I remember in Groton, Connecticut, sitting in the wardroom of the submarine, talking to him about a life of significance. I couldn't talk to Bill Hooley about being successful. I don't know if you've ever met some of these new guys, but they live on a different plane. They think different, and when you're on the submarine and the skipper's on board, there's a sense of he's a pretty important dude. So I wasn't there to talk to him about being successful, but I was certainly there to talk to him about what he could do to see significance in his life. And he made a decision that day, and he moved towards significance. And then he went on and became a Rear Admiral and had an impact with his life. And didn't self-destruct like so many that I've seen. You see, if we get caught up in the wrong things, then we see our significance through our success and not our success through our significance. And I think that's important, that we use our quest for significance to always be the barometer to whether success is really making a difference. See, God created us to have a life of significance. It was meant to be fulfilled in our relationship with Him. And because this is faith-based and we make no apology that this is all about God, one verse that I want to share with you today that I think really is important. Thus says the Lord, let not a wise man or woman boast of their wisdom, and let not the mighty boast of his might. Let not a rich man boast of his riches. But let him who boasts boast of this, that he understands and knows me. And I think that's the big challenge for all of us as we pursue a life of significance. Do we understand and know God? And is he making a difference in our life? And then is he working in our life to serve and make a difference in other people's lives? And we don't have time today because of we want to stay real close to our commitment to being on time here. But I wanted to just give you the first of what I call the foundational precepts of pursuing a life of significance. And then next time we're together, I'll unpack 3 or 4 of these foundational precepts of significance. But number 1 is you can't get there if you make it out about yourself. You can't get there to personal significance if you make it out about yourself. But we all have that tendency, right? And it's just we have those kind of subtle ways. But to live a life that's not focused on ourselves, but to be focused on others, to be focused on who God is and what He wants to do through us, to be focused on our community and the needs of the community. And that's what was so exciting for me last week in Europe, because we get this context of how dark and dreary Europe is. And I met these incredible businessmen and women who they're conquering strongholds. They're going after it. And they're believing that they can make a difference. They're sober about what they're facing. But there's also this positiveness. But there was this absence of people weren't there vying for titles. And it was so refreshing to be in these meetings with all these folks. And they weren't making it out about them. And there wasn't this, you know how you go to these meetings sometimes, and you could, I like to study people a lot, and I'll go to these meetings, and it's just fascinating to watch how people are jockeying in a room to have position to talk to someone. And you can actually be somewhere where you're talking to a person, and you know that your conversation isn't sinking in at all because they're dialed in to where they want to go in the next conversation, right? And all of us have that tendency, and it's refreshing to be with people who, when you're with them, you matter. And I trust that we all want to be with that kind of person, that when we're with someone, they're the most important person in the room. That's being a person of significance. But you can't get there if you make it out about yourself. Because many focus on what they do as a way of finding significance, and they never discover or are fulfilled in who they are. One of the things that we, in our socialization process, and as we go through our careers, we are rewarded for what? We're rewarded for being a doer, right? And when I'm on staff with Campus Crusade for Christ, which is a large interdenominational Christian movement, and worked at the leadership level of that for years. When I was the U.S. director, with 6,000 staff and 68 ministries, part of how I got there was not because I knew how to sit around and hold hands and sing Kumbaya. Right? I mean, you move up in any given organization because you can deliver. You can do what the tasks that need to be done. And so we get caught up in that. And that fights us in significance. That's when we act more like a human doer than a human being. And I'll never forget this some years ago when this guy that I work with, and he always has these provocative things he's going through, and we were just sharing together, and he was saying, and he was challenging me on this, is, are we human doers, or are we human beings? And what's that look like, feel like? You know, how's that play itself out? Because I had that drivenness. Yeah, I'm still driven, but driven more and more as I mature for the right things. And I would just leave you with that question today, as we close, as we're out of time, is where are we on this quest for significance? Where does significance come from? How do I build that? How do I bring people around my life that stimulates me to be on the more human being side? Because we've got all kinds of people. We can go out and hire people that can help us be good human doers, right? Whether it be having a personal trainer in the physical area, or how to do the right kind of analysis in our company, on and on and on. We can get all this kind of expertise. But who is it that we have in our life, as it says in Hebrews 10:25, that is around us that will stimulate us to love and good deeds? And so with that, we close. We had a commitment to bring it in for a landing here a little bit ahead of time, and I think we're there. But can I just pray and thank God for our time together today? Father, thank you for our time together. Thank you for these men and women. Thank you that you want us to be significant in our relationship with you, and significant in the impact that we make on other people's lives and in our community and ultimately our world. And so we ask that you would bless the coming sessions that we have together as we seek to do that and to learn together. Thank you. It's in your name we pray. Amen. Thank you all for coming. And
Just a couple things. If you just take a few minutes, stay at the table, and throw out the name of that person who is significant in your life and why you think that person's significant. Just take a couple minutes to do that, share that at the table. We want to make a couple commitments for you. Our next session is December 5. On Monday or Tuesday, a couple days ahead of that, you're going to get an agenda from us. You're going to get a short summary of what we talked about today, okay? And we're going to pose a couple key questions about the topic for that particular day. What I want you to do is to tell me when you get that. If you can make it, you'll let us know. And y'all did a great job today. We were within one of our projected number. So look in your inbox on Tuesday before that Thursday. You'll get a summary of what we just did. You'll get some key questions about what we're going to do Thursday. And you'll have all of that because you'll live all those cards. And then just let us know, hey, I can make it that Thursday, December 5 or December 19th, or I can't. We can do a great lunch count, and we can do that. So thanks so much, buddy. Appreciate it. So take a few minutes to talk about significance, and then we'll see you in a couple of weeks. Thanks.